What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum, and today we have the latest release from Sam Houston. It's a 15-year-old age statement for 2021. The barrels for this release were sampled and ranked by a hand-chosen group of industry insiders and bourbon enthusiasts, and I was extremely honored to be a part of that process. No two batches are the same, but the taste profile captured in the barrel sampling process showcased the care and craft utilized in creating this limited release bourbon. Let's take a closer look and see how the new Sam Houston 15-year came out today on the Mash and Drum. So who the hell is Sam Houston? Well, he's a true Texas legend and a patriot. He ran away from home at a young age. For a short time, he lived with the Cherokee tribe in the Hiwassee River area. Eventually, he was given the name Calumet, meaning the raven, and adopted into the tribe as Chief John Jolly's son. Sam Houston grew up to be a fierce soldier and a strategist. At one point, with a small outnumbered, undersupplied force, his men defeated the Mexican general Santa Anna. Houston's men suffered a few casualties, but the decisive victory forced Santa Anna to sign the Treaty of Velasco, granting Texas its independence. According to history, Sam Houston was well respected as one of the great political men of his day, serving as a congressman, a governor, and twice as the president of the Republic of Texas. All right, so last year, the Sam Houston 14 made my top 10 of the year for 2020. They had two releases in the spring and fall last year that encompassed a different selection of barrels for different states. So that means that some specific state releases and batches were better than others. So depending on where you got your Sam Houston 14, the flavor profile in your blend could have been very different from another state's blend. Now, release number 6 of Sam Houston 15-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon is their oldest bourbon offering to date. As I mentioned, this release was crafted from specific barrels in a private reserve of premium bourbon, sampled and ranked by a hand-chosen group of industry insiders and bourbon enthusiasts. So the release is kind of like a double-edged sword. Like last year's 14-year releases, no two batches are the same depending on what state you're in. So it's pretty cool that you can maybe get some different flavor profiles from state to state, but on the other hand, one state's batch might not be nearly or as good as another state's batch, but the batch number is disclosed on the back of the bottle. So all of us who helped select the barrels for release number 6 received KY-1, which is the Kentucky batch. Number 1, Kentucky's getting 2 batches. Now, this custom limited edition box of Sam Houston 15-year-old bourbon was a gift for helping curate release number 6. So to be clear, you won't see this box available for purchase in the store, but I mean, this box is pretty sweet, as you saw in the close-ups. All right, so what's in the bottle? So the KY-01 batch specifically contains 15-year-old bourbon with the Mashbill of 74% corn, 18% rye, and 8% malted barley, most likely sourced from Barton like the previous releases. And the Mashbill will not be different from state to state, but the barrel batching will. So the Kentucky one specifically has a batch size of 3 barrels, but other batches could be a blend of just 2 or 3. This is also non-chill filtered, 103 proof, aged in number 4 char American oak barrels. This is available now in select markets with an MSRP of about $130. What's cool about the gift box they sent us is that it includes the Golden Rider bottle emblem on the bottle, which is right here. You guys are taking a little close-up of that, which just really cool. It's a nice little detail for everybody that helped out. It also came with a leather strap, which is very Texas, which actually has some tags and some information about the bourbon, a nice little message for those who took part in helping select the barrels. And then my favorite part is it came with something called a slosh bag. So the slosh bag actually contains wood chips and a little bit of barrel char from the actual barrel dumps they use to craft the bourbon. I'm just saying, you could smell this stuff through the bag. This would easily make a great cologne. Telling you, Sam Houston 15, make a cologne with this stuff in it. I'd wear it. Goodbye, Drakkar Noir. Hello, Sam Houston Slosh Bag Cologne. I don't wear Drakkar Noir. So real quick, Sam Houston 15 will be available in 30 states. Some states will get more than one batch, as you can see. You can see the list also on samhoustonbourbonwhiskey.com. I'll leave a link below. One thing I love about Sam Houston is the transparency. I really think they do a great job of telling you exactly what the mash bill is, barrel size, non-chill filtration, and exactly where it's going to be. Sometimes you don't get that from, you know, brands that source. So let's go to the nose, see what we get here. Very delicious nose. This is a classic, well-aged bourbon nose here. I get a lot of butterscotch. Just a ton of rich, like burnt caramel. Obviously, tons of vanilla. There is a slight cherry hint on top here. We are gonna compare it to Sam Houston 14 and also Calumet 15, which also comes from Western Spirits, which is, you know, who helps craft this bourbon as well. And let's see which one wins out, so. Man, I love the nose on this one. A little bit of milk chocolate. Definitely get a nice hint of rye spice here. Again, the unfortunate thing is that, you know, depending on what state you're in, this could differ from what I have. So, but hopefully this one is kind of a good baseline for what the other states, you know, batches kind of smell and taste like. Yeah, I mean, you could actually smell a little bit of that Rick House barrel char in the glass, which is one of my favorite notes to get in a bourbon. But yeah, the butterscotch note is what's getting me. There's like a slight little dusty note in there too, like a little dusty bourbon note. I mean, so far, great nose. This is as solid of a great aged bourbon. It's not, doesn't smell over oaked at all, but it's also dark at the same time. There's a lot of rich dark caramels. Again, the butterscotch, like a burnt, like you know, that creme brulee top with like the burnt sugars. A little bit of that dusty note, and I would say a slight hint of cherry and chocolate as well there on the right, just a little bit of a waft of one. So let's go for a sip. Here we go. Wow, on the palate, I immediately got chocolate and a little bit more cherry too. Man, the oak presence is strong. I really get those rich like barrel notes, like sweet oak. I mean, and it's delicious. It's not over oaked in any, you know, way or fashion. Man, first sip was good. Let's go for a second sip here. Second sip, more of the cherry came in. I'm also getting like this powdered sugar, like funnel cake thing going on. It's like a fried dough. Is there a such thing as a cherry funnel cake? Because that's what I'm kind of tasting in this one. It's got the oak, it's got the, yeah, I'm still getting that little bit of like a Werther's Original Candy on the back end, like that butteriness to it. I don't know if it's full on butterscotch, but there's definitely like a brown butter thing going on. Go for another sip. Starting to get some of the, like the almond characteristic as well. It's like a toasted almond note. Dare I say marzipan? That's for Fred Minnick. It's got like a marzipan thing going on, I think, too. And you kind of wrap that around like the dough, like the funnel cake dough, the cherry. Again, that rich burnt caramel, vanilla. Now the finish on this is, you know, so it's 103 proof, non-chill filtered. It's very elegant. I don't think there's anything here that's gonna like blow you away. Like this isn't gonna come off like an Elijah Craig barrel proof or even a rare breed or anything like that. I even think the Bardstown Bourbon Company series, when you compare the price, that's 130 bucks. This is 130 bucks, you know, at retail. But I feel like the Bardstown Bourbon Company Discovery Series has a little bit more depth of flavor to it, especially with it being that kind of a blend. But for what this is, I think this is just a little bit more of an elegant sipper. There's nothing that's like jumping out of the glass for me. It's just a really beautiful combination of flavors. When you talk about what you want in a bourbon, a lot of caramel, a lot of vanilla, those standard flavors, then you kind of get into a little bit of spice. This brings some milk chocolates, bringing a little bit of like that cherry funnel cake, getting a marzipan note to it. Let's go to the finish here, and then we're gonna compare to the other two. It's really good. I would say the only ding I would give this is that the finish is actually, I think the finish is just lacking a little flavor for me. I do love I love the flavor on the finish. It just goes away too quickly. But I will say what you get up front, what you get in the mid palate, it's nice, it's velvety, it's mouth coating, being non-chill filtered, a lot of flavor there. But as you swallow it down, I think the first couple sips you get a nice little lingering finish, but the more you sip it, like most bourbons, the special bourbons are the ones where the finish is the same every single time. The finish kind of drifts off a little bit as you sip on this a little bit more. Let's compare it to the Sam Houston 14 from last year and also the Calumet 15, which I just reviewed not too long ago, and see how they compare. All right, guys, as you can see here, I have my Sam Houston 15, the Kentucky Batch 1, and we're gonna be putting this against the Sam Houston 14 from last year. This happens to be Maryland Batch 1. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, the batches will differ from state to state. I'm just curious to see how this Kentucky Batch 1 that I got, compares to the one I really liked from last year, which happened to be from Maryland. Then I'm gonna throw Calumet 15 in the mix. This is a bourbon I just actually put up against the Old Fit 16 in a review. Actually did pretty well, a lot of cherry from what I remember. But again, all of these three have the same mash bill. They're all sourced from Barton. The Calumet 15 obviously has the same age statement. Since these were so different, the Sam Houston 14s, it'll be interesting to see how they differ, how they compare. But I think the Calumet 15 will be a really helpful comparison as well. So the Kentucky one on the nose, again, this is just getting more and more just creamy and caramel and vanilla, just like, again, that little bit of a dusty note that I'm getting from like a good dusty bourbon. There's like this sweet, like that buttery, brown buttery note to it. Oh, I love the nose on the Sam Houston 15, at least this Kentucky Batch 1. All right, let's go to Maryland 1 here. So Maryland 1 came in at 98 proof, so a little bit lower. But yeah, it's a little bit lighter, but similar in profile here. I think there's a little bit more cherry on my Maryland 1, a little bit more chocolate. Damn solid batch. That's probably why I liked it so much. The noses aren't too far off. I think the 15 is just a slightly richer and bolder. Again, this one has been open for quite a while, so let's try the Sam Houston 14. So that's interesting. On the 14, I feel like I'm getting more of the oak presence on the 14 year than I am on the 15 year. The 15 year has that oak presence, but it's coming through just more of the vanillin that they're sucking out of the barrel to get those really sweet flavors. I'm getting more in the 15, I think. Oh yeah, the 15. Actually, when you compare the 15 to the 14, the 15 just has a little bit more spice going on. I'm still getting a nice spicy finish on the 15. I did mention earlier that the finish does go away a little bit too quickly for me, which is still holding true, but it definitely has a more interesting finish in the 14. It's spicier. It kind of lingers a little bit longer. But yeah. All right. Calumet 15. I'm sure a lot of you guys are interested in this comparison. Let's see how this does here. Yeah, the Calumet 15 is just, it hasn't changed. It's just become more and more of a cherry, like almost like to the point of a medicinal cherry bomb. A lot of cherry and chocolate. A little bit of smoke here too in the Calumet. Getting a little bit of that almond note here too. Let's try the Calumet. Yeah, the Calumet is more cherry forward. Now the Calumet 15 comes in at 105 proof, which is 2 proof points higher than Sam 15, which is an interesting, I always wonder like why they picked those specific proof points. Like this is 105. Is that really the differentiator between this one, the 15 year for the Sam Houston? You know, I love the Calumet 15, but I think the Sam Houston 15 actually just drinks heftier and stronger. And you know, this one hasn't been open that long. The Calumet 15 has a lot of the cherry, as I mentioned, the chocolate, little hint of smoke. It's got a little bit of spice there. It's still very velvety, the Calumet 15. It's got the heft and the viscosity you want. You know, this is also non-chill filtered. Let's go back to the Sam Houston 15. Yeah, I think the Sam Houston 15, at least this one, the Kentucky one, overall, is just a little bit more refined, a little bit more elegant, and more balanced. I like that this one is bringing some of the cherry, but not as much as the Calumet 15. It's bringing the cherry, but it's also got the butterscotch, the brown butter, that funnel cake, that hint of cherry there, a little bit of milk chocolate in there as well. The kind of the going theme for all three of these is that really all three of these don't have a long lingering finish. Remember, the proof is about, I mean, the Sam 14 is just under 100 and these are just over 100. So you're not gonna get this long lasting like burn or finish from either of these. But I do think that the Sam Houston 15 is actually bringing a little bit more flavor and a little bit more of an interesting finish, even though I'll say that the finish still isn't, you know, lasting, especially from sip to sip. One more quick sip of each one here. I just love the balance of that Sam Houston 15, at least this batch. Let's go with the 14 again. The 14 also has that balance. It's just, I think it's just more oak forward for whatever reason, whereas this particular batch of 15 has the oak, but it's a lot more sweet oak and more balance and some of those sweet flavors than the Calumet. Yeah, the Calumet coming off these is actually the most tame, and it's also the more cherry forward one. So if you love cherry, go after the Calumet 15. Sam Houston 14s are kind of gone, but I think some of them are still hanging around. Now, as far as the new Sam Houston 15, let's go to the final breakdown. All right, it is final breakdown time. We always start with the price, which is $130 MSRP. Secondary, I haven't seen these on secondary quite yet, but I remember the 14s were going for about up to $200 on secondary. I don't know if the same will be for the Sam Houston 15. Availability, as I said, available in 30 different states, all with different batches. Some states will get 2 batches rather than just one. I posted the state sheet, as you guys saw when I was explaining it earlier. But as I said, if you go to samhoustonbourbonwhiskey.com, you can check out the exact states that they're available in. I'll leave the link below. All right, guys, when it comes to value, I still think this is a damn good value. You're looking at $130 for a 15-year-old bourbon. Surprised that, you know, you could find anything, you know, for 15 years or younger or even older that's less than $200. I mean, this is $130. So I think it's a great value overall. So what's the most I'd pay? For this particular batch, Kentucky 1, I'd probably pay up to $150 for it. Again, a 15-year-old bourbon. I love the flavors in this one. Like I said, it's not overpowering. You're not gonna get a huge flavor punch from this, but I just think it's a damn good, elegant sipper, a 15-year-old age statement, non-chill filtered from a great distillery. I'd go up to $150 for this particular batch. All right, so do I recommend? So this is a yes and no. Yes, if you're able to get this Kentucky 1, if you live in Kentucky and you get your hands on this one, it's a delicious batch. Again, it's not overpowering. It's a little bit more elegant. It's a little bit of an easier sipper, but I love the flavors on this one. The butterscotch, a little bit of a dusty note, like I said, cherry funnel cake, some marzipan, a little bit of chocolate hint there. Not the longest finish in the world, but enough there where I'm interested and I'll just keep sipping. This is one of those bottles you could just sit there and sip on it all night. It's really easy. I'm interested to like throw a rock, you know, some ice in there and see if that opens it up at all. If you don't live in Kentucky or can't get the Kentucky 1, I wouldn't say no, but I would say try before you buy it. Because remember, the Sam Houston 14s had a lot of differentiation from state to state. You just don't know what your batch is gonna taste like depending on what state you're in. So if it's possible for you to try a friend's, or if you actually go to a store that actually, you know, maybe let you taste it first, I would try it before you buy it, before you dive in. Spend the $130, $150, you know, whatever it may be for this bottle, because there is a lot of differentiation in it depending on how many barrels they put into the batches. But overall, at least for this batch, I'm loving this one. All right, guys, well, hope you enjoyed this review for the Sam Houston 15 Kentucky Batch 1. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Let me know if you live in any different states and what your thoughts are. If you picked one of these up already and you have, you know, tasted it, were you impressed with it? Were you not so impressed? Always love talking to you guys. As I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. So cheers, and I'll see you next time on the Mash and Drum. Take care, everybody.
Ready.